he rescues me in a really spectacular way. I get sober. I start working in the field of mental health. I met God. Ambiguous God is how I first said yes, because it wasn't going to be Jesus based off the woundedness of my past. And then the ambiguous acceptance of this God that's I couldn't, or we as humans couldn't comprehend, right? I had this kind of almost spiritual, I don't know what it was. Like, I thought I knew better than you, and you needed the man-made religion to be okay, but I had risen above and didn't need it to be defined in any kind of way. It was really silly looking back on it. But I had to go through all that, right, to eventually land and be pulled kicking and screaming into the belief in Jesus Christ, which I wouldn't change anything. Anything. So anyway, believe in God, I get sober. He removes the desire for me to drink and use. We'll talk more about that. That was the first piece of evidence for me to go, okay, oh my gosh, God is real. I'll explain more of that later. In that world of recovery, I say yes to opportunities that God starts to present in my life to go work in recovery. I make this move from Vail, Colorado to Dallas, Texas, and only person in the history of the world probably to make that move. It's usually the other way. If you know what I'm talking about, you know. Why would I leave, one of the most beautiful places in America to go down there? Because God made it clear that's what he wanted me to do, and I was all in. Moved down to Texas, started working in the field of recovery, only to find out that, man, there's so much more that God wanted to show me. It wasn't for me about just getting sober. It was, I need you to get sober, son, so that we can go backwards now into your story to go through the healing of the trauma, to wake up to the internal messaging that shows up even today, sitting here nearly 11 years sober. I talked about, and will talk about on this channel, recognizing these old messages from childhood that have developed and grown over time, that are still part of the old me, all right, the old self that still shows up. And I got my butt kicked, man, in Texas in a beautiful way, in a humble way. And that's where I really met Jesus and got to know Jesus. And that's where then a friend invited me to go on a retreat with this guy named John Eldridge, who I didn't know who it was. In 2018, we go on this retreat, and Jesus kicks the doors of my heart open in a way that I couldn't explain to anybody if I tried. That's where the seed was planted for me to start the men's ministry, True North Retreats, which we launched in 2019. That's what I do now full time. I've been doing retreats all around the country for the last 7 years. I live in Franklin, Tennessee. I am married. Got married when I was 40 to the love of my life that God saved for me. We have 4-year-old twins, boy-girl twins. Yep. Dramatic pause for empathy, right? Best thing in the world. I also work part-time at a church in Nashville, Tennessee as the men's ministry coordinator. And in addition to that, I've had a business that helps in the secular world management teams with conflict resolution and performance coaching and some kind of stuff like that. And so that's who I am today, sitting on this side of the camera. For years in my previous life in film and television, I think I learned a lot of things and that were developed to then kind of translate today as a different guy. I used to love acting and performing because I didn't have to be me. And today, I'm loving and learning how to be me, right? And the me that I'm learning and loving to be with, man, needs God. Wants God, not just needs, desires that relationship. And so, whether you subscribe or like this thing, I don't know. I'm loosely holding any kind of expectations that come from putting myself out there. I hope you will join us in the journey of what this channel will be, bridging the gap. As I share and invite other people into our space to talk about what is it, how do we bridge the gap on a daily basis from our head to our heart as believers, as husbands, as fathers, as friends. That is the invitation into sanctification. Jesus says, follow me. Okay, what does that mean? Good news, bad news. As Peter said, where would I go? There is no other way. And I hope that this channel becomes an encouragement to you and to myself to look at our relationships with God, relationships with others, to say yes to the very beautiful process of walking with God on a daily basis, very imperfectly, but actively, to bridge the gap between our head to our heart.